Good evening, and welcome to the Wednesday, September 21st, 2022 Town Board Legislative Meeting. Happy fall to everyone, and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We are changing our format just a little bit for this meeting because, excuse me, folks. Yeah.
Roll call.
Right. Before we go into roll call, I just want to mention that we are doing the preliminary tentative budget presentation at the beginning of the meeting, and then we can go back into our regular business as usual. And would the town clerk please call the roll?
Cinti.
Here.
Drawe.
Here.
Kohl.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Ockenden.
Here.
Thank you very much. And we'll move right into our budget presentation. With us, we have our Director of Finance, Barbara Chertow. And just to give a little bit of background, this is a very long process. It actually begins in July and it concludes in November. This particular presentation is a very brief one. There will be more opportunities to discuss and dissect as we go further. So I'm going to get right into the presentation. And I just want to mention also that this will be placed on the website at the conclusion of the presentation this evening, at the conclusion of the meeting. I want to just alert everyone that this is your property tax dollar, the town portion of your taxes. This is not school or county. And this is actually the smallest piece of the pie. This accounts for just about 7% of your total tax bill. So a rather small portion. And with that rather small portion, we provide the necessary day-to-day services of public works. That's things like plowing during the snowstorms, recreation, as well as facets of public safety upon which you all depend. Now, looking at it and putting this in perspective, these are town services versus your common monthly bills, and on a monthly basis, the typical household spends about $235 if you just look at your cell phone, television, and internet. If you look again at that town portion of your tax bill, general governmental services, it actually comes to about $47.06 a month. Okay? Our tentative budget for the fiscal year will be a total of $22,600,471. This is a $37,000 decrease in the tax levy, and it is $454,959 below the tax cap. So $21.7 million is primarily for the purpose of large equipment, but for the total levy for town operations will decrease approximately $37,000, so there is no additional tax burden. We are well under the tax levy increase allowed by New York State. And I'd like to turn it over to Barbara Chertow now to get into some of the nuts and bolts.
Sure. Thank you, Supervisor Cinti. As you can see, this is a distribution of the budget dollar. Just to give you an idea, as we are primarily a provider of services to the residents, the largest percentage of the budget is for payroll and benefits. Second to that would be our contractual expenditures, which are basically the consumables of each year. That allocation is the second largest of the piece of the pie. As I mentioned, we have, as the pie splits out, equipment and capital is approximately 14% of our overall budget, and that equates to $2.9 million, just over. And with that, that would be for heavy duty and light duty equipment, playground equipment, facility improvements, computer components, just about sidewalks, just about everything you can think of is what that 14% of the budget is appropriated towards. For our major department distributions, our DPW is again the largest of our departments and receives the biggest piece of the pie. The tentative budget, they'll receive approximately 45% of the total, with the town library appropriations are approximately 9%, with recreation just behind that at 4.5%. Again, these are our three of our major departments which provide so many of the services to our residents. And I'm going to let the supervisor speak to the next slide.
Okay, remember we did this thing called the reval earlier in the year, the reassessment process, and as you can see, now that the Penfield has completed that, the taxable value of Penfield has increased. This year, the valuation increased to $4.34 billion. That's an increase of 32%. But remember, I've always said it is not the reassessment that matters as much as it is the tax levy. This is always about the levy and how much is collected in taxes from town residents.
And with that, this next slide is a summary of the tentative general governmental budget, which again, those funds consist of the general fund, the highway fund, and the library fund. The appropriations proposed for 2023 are just over $19.3 million, with revenues estimated at about 9.3. There is an anticipated fund balance contribution from the general fund, the highway restricted fund balance, and library fund totaling $810,000, resulting in a tax levy of $9.12 million. Therefore, with the town's taxable assessment at $4.34 billion, the anticipated tax rate will actually drop to $2.10 per thousand from a rate this year that was $2.78. Again, that tax levy for the general governmental services is to remain flat for 2023 at this point. That is what is proposed, and that would, as the supervisor said, we will not bring in any additional dollars as a result of the reval. The levy remains as it was for 2022.
But just to speak a little bit to the math behind this, when our overall value of the town increases and we calculate out, our tax rate did fall. Again, it fell, with this presentation, it fell from $2.78 per thousand to $2.10 per thousand.
The next slide is actually just spells out that the tax rate will drop to $2.10 for an average house in Penfield, which is valued at $269,000. Your general governmental tax bill will be $564.66. This is a slight drop from 2022 of a little less than $5. For the portion of non-tax revenues for 2023, we are estimating that these will come in higher and stronger than they did in 2022, a total of $9.4 million, which is an increase of about $618,000 from what we had budgeted in 2022. We have been seeing strong growth in sales tax, mortgage tax, and interest rates are now, as we all know, the Fed just made another announcement, but interest rates are continuing to go up, which does help us on our investment side. And although this is the side of the budget that our messaging for years has been, this is the side you have to be the most conservative on because this is what we have the least control over is our revenue stream. We budget conservatively, but we do expect to realize revenue growth in 2023.
Thank you. Would you like to talk about special districts?
I will. So for our special districts, the first one is our sanitary sewer district. For 2023, we will see an overall decrease of $2 for the rate from 2022. The total for operation and maintenance piece, as well as the debt service, will total $93.84, as I said, which is approximately $2 less than it was in 2022. Essentially, as debt service is paid off, which is what we've paid to put in the ground, as it's paid off, we take that money and we put it towards maintaining our infrastructure. So we shift it to the maintenance and the upkeep of the assets so they last as long as possible. And this is the 5th year in a row that our rate for sanitary sewers has decreased. Continuing with special districts, our drainage rate will remain flat. This funding is for the townwide drainage maintenance while we adhere to all federal and state stormwater regulations. Our town's drainage system is rather extensive and includes all the retention and detention ponds as well as our creeks and surface drainage. So that will remain at $3.99. A typical household is assessed for 10 units, so your bill is $39.99. For our townwide lighting district, the rate does drop a little bit. Again, the lighting district is based on assessed value. It is not unit-based, so therefore with the reval, that rate does drop a little bit. We'll be at 0.0374 cents per thousand. A typical household pays approximately $10 for the town-wide lighting district. And our intensified lighting district, which is a much smaller district, that one is parcel-based, so that will be $23.40 per parcel, which is about 10 cents less than it was in 2022.
Okay, and as you know, I've written and talked extensively about what kind of services we can provide, and we always want to do better. And we've made some improvements, I think, to customer service going forward into next year's budget. First thing is that we are going to be dedicating some funds to evening staffing at recreation. We were finding that people would come in for a rec department program or even the library, and there wasn't anyone to help them if they needed assistance or if they had a question. So there will be some evening staffing at the community center in the recreation department. We have also, as you've seen, opened up the dedicated reception area in the town hall. That means there's a live person there to greet you. If there can't be, then we do have the kiosks there for convenience, but we do think that the town hall can be more inviting, and we think there can be a better customer service experience with a live person at the window. I know that many people have written to us expressing concern about the limited brush drop-off hours, and we are expanding those, increasing those hours. It will be one Saturday a month to be determined, and that'll be during the months of April through October. So again, adding services. And then also we need to expand our security presence. As this town has gotten bigger, our security hasn't necessarily kept up with that. So we'll be looking at having a security presence, an increased security presence in the evenings in particular, which we think will go a long way towards just ensuring public safety. You might want to ask, how did we do that? How did we keep everything the same when we're adding some things? And there are three reasons. Barbara already mentioned that we're exceeding our estimates for sales tax revenue. We have also had some debt service falling off, which means that we're not paying a loan, we're not paying money back for a loan. We put that towards programming and things. And then also judicious use of reserve funds. So we made a promise that we would keep the tax levy flat, and we have.
The final slide here is just kind of a summary of what we've been going over, the tentative operating budget for fiscal year 2023. Again, the total appropriations are proposed at $22,066,471, revenue at $9,472,547, with fund balance from the highway reserve of $480,000, and overall fund balance from all the other funds at $390,027. The resultant tax levy overall for town-wide services, $11,723,897. Again, with the reserves and the fund balances appropriated, the reserves in particular for the highway fund are for large pieces of equipment that are part of a multi-year equipment plan. And again, the total tax burden for 2023 is decreasing by approximately $37,000. And that is just, as the supervisor had indicated, this is just a summary of the budget. The town board has the tentative document, which we now move into the preliminary budget phase over the next few weeks in preparation for the public hearing coming up in October.
Right. Now, where can you go to get more information? Obviously, this is going to be posted on the website at the conclusion of the meeting. I do want to just go over the budget timeline. October 19th, there will be a public hearing on the 2023 preliminary budget where we receive public comments. Also, October 20th through the 28th, the town board reviews comments and develops the final budget. And hopefully it will be adopted on November 2nd by the town board at a legislative meeting. If you have questions or concerns that are not answered in this presentation or on the website, I really urge you to email supervisor@penfield.org. I will put you in touch with Ms. Cherto, who can dig into the numbers as you like. But definitely there is information available. Please avail yourself of it. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think we're set.
Okay. And as I mentioned before, this is just a very quick presentation. Our comments and questions by board members will actually come at a later date. So we'll move on with the rest of our meeting now, if that's okay with everyone. Okay. All right. Moving on to our communication and announcements. We do have several communications this evening. I'll start with our town clerk.
Thank you, Supervisor Cinti. We still have and continue to sell deer management permits through close of business on October 1st, 2022. For more information, please visit the Department of Environmental Conservation website at dec.ny.gov/outdoor or call 1-866-471-4332, and you can always call me at 340-8629. Also, we continue to accept tax payments Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Full tax payments are due by October 3rd, 2022.
Thank you very much. Councilperson Ockenden.
Thank you. I do have two announcements this evening. Both are reminders. The upcoming health fair at Penfield Volunteer Emergency Ambulance right here on Jackson Road is coming up this Saturday, September 24th. Be running from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. At this health fair, they'll have numerous vendors and stations set up. There'll be blood pressure screening, demonstrations on CPR, Stop the Bleeding, information on their Explorer Youth Program. The state police will be there. Our local fire departments will be there. Flu and tetanus shots, and many, many more. So, again, reminder, September 24th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Penfield Ambulance Base, 1585 Jackson Road, and you can visit their website, www.penfieldambulance.org, for more information. And then secondly, a reminder of our residential drop-off recycling days. Coming up Friday, September 30th from 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and the following day, Saturday, October 1st until 3 p.m. It's going to be here at our Penfield DPW facility at 1607 Jackson Road. You'll be able to drop off and recycle metals, appliances. There will be brush disposal, no grass or leaves, but you will be able to drop off your brush. There's a donation site for clothing and linens, as well as a bottle and can collection. And one other note on Saturday, Saturday only, there'll be a secure document destruction station there. So if you have any documents that you'd like to bring in, they'll shred them right there while you wait. And again, that's just on Saturday here at DPW. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilperson Drawe.
Thank you. I have two announcements tonight. First is the Town of Penfield Shadow Pine Celebration will be this Saturday, September 24th, from 1 to 3 p.m. At 600 Whalen Road, right at the Shadow Pines Park. And there will be demonstrations by disc golf, pickleball, I believe the Trails Committee, and some other groups around Penfield are going to be there, so please join us if you'd like to between 1 and 3 this Saturday. And my second announcement is really, I've heard from a couple residents along with myself at some of these crosswalks. A resident approached me the other day saying that they were in some of the new crosswalks that the county has put in Penfield, and cars are not stopping when people are walking across the crosswalk. And they're lighted crosswalks. I think that their PCTV is going to put a couple of these on TV. Maybe we had in the past. We mentioned where they were. They're in quite a few locations in town. I think it's just a reminder to let people know that there are. He's put up right now the Walk This Way pedestrian safety tips for in the crosswalk. And I just think we need to be more cognizant. I mean, people are driving so fast. They're on their phones, maybe, maybe not. They're not being aware, but you know that school's in session, so people are walking to school, people are walking their dogs, families are out, and I know that everyone on this board, and we feel that if there was ever a tragedy, we want to avoid it as much as possible. Obviously, we don't want anyone to ever ever have an incident. So one thing I wanted to tell people is there's the United States Department of Transportation has a very nice website, and I think that it was on, Dave was going to, they were going to put this up, but there's some safety tips, and I think it bears a reminding for people, for all of us as drivers, and I've read them, and I think it's just really beneficial. Number one is to look out for pedestrians everywhere at all times. Number two is to use extra caution when driving in hard-to-see conditions, such as nighttime or bad weather. And three, slow down and be prepared to stop when turning or otherwise entering a crosswalk. 4, you must always yield to pedestrians in crosswalks and stop well back from the crosswalk to give other vehicles an opportunity to see the crossing pedestrians so they can stop too. Number 5 is to never pass vehicles stopped at a crosswalk. There may be people crossing where you can't see. Number 6 is never drive under the influence of alcohol and/or drugs. 7 is follow the speed limit, especially around people in the street, on the street, in school zones, and in neighborhoods, especially where children are present. And number 8 is to be cautious when backing up and looking for pedestrians. And along with us as drivers having tips, there is walking tips, 8 walking safety tips that we all should adhere to as well as when we're walking in town and into crosswalks. We should, number 1, follow the rules of the road and obey the signs and signals. We should walk on sidewalks whenever they are available. If there's no sidewalk, you walk facing traffic as far from traffic as possible. Number 4 is to cross streets at crosswalks or intersections. Look for cars in all directions, including those turning left or right. Number 5, if a crosswalk or intersection is not available, locate a well-lit area where you have the best view of traffic. Wait for a gap in traffic that allows enough time to cross safely, and continue watching for traffic as you cross. Number 6, watch for cars entering or exiting driveways or backing up in parking lots. And number 7, again, is avoid alcohol and drugs when walking. They impair your abilities and your judgment. And number 8 is embrace walking as a healthy form of transportation. Get up, get out, and get moving. So I just think it bears reminding. So I just want everybody to be safe and I appreciate the time that to take to listen to this. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilperson Drawe. Councilperson Kohl.
Thanks. I have 2 announcements. One being Penfield Public Library celebrating their 80th anniversary this year. The grand opening of the Penfield Library was February 25th, 1942. Well, if you know, this past week in particular, we're celebrating the library. You can go to www.penfieldlibrary.org to see the remaining programs that are taking place. There's a book discussion regarding a book that takes place in 1942. And tomorrow night, there's Casablanca, which came out in 1942, if you like to go to that movie, at the Bremen Room. And then there's a afternoon tea at 2 o'clock on Friday. And that is Friday Club was instrumental in creating the library, the public library. And some members of the Friday Club are going to speak at this afternoon tea about how it all came to be. So it's a fun history of the 80th anniversary of the Penfield Public Library, if you'd like to attend. And the other thing I have is the Penfield Community Bike Drop. This will be our 12th one, and we've received more than 2,000 bikes and bike parts over these years. And this one will be Saturday, October 1st at the Community Center from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And if you have a bike you're not using any longer, or if you have bike parts laying around somewhere, bring them over if you can, because it goes to our community bikes, which will refurbish the bikes, and they give them out to people in need for transportation and enjoyment in the city of Rochester. So it's a great opportunity to give back to what you're doing with the bikes instead of just laying them out for the metal man who comes and picks up metal in your street. And this is done with the Penfield Recreation and the Penfield Rotary Club. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilperson Lee.
The Penfield Art Association will be hosting its fall art show at the Legacy at Willow Pond. The show will run from October 2nd through the 29th from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. The town has a number of employment opportunities available. The positions as well as the applications are available online for all interested applicants. And finally, I wanted to share and congratulate the Mary Cariola Center for hosting a fabulous fundraiser walk at the Veterans Memorial Park this past Sunday. Karen Zandi, the president and CEO pictured there, is doing so much to advance the mission of the Mary Cariola Center, which is a wonderful and much needed resource in town, and we were so glad to be hosting it in Penfield. They serve adults and children with special needs, and they've raised over $150,000 as a result of that event, and we again thank them for hosting that in Penfield.
Thank you very much. I have 3 additional announcements. So the first one is actually, I neglected to thank Ms. Cherto, so I did want to thank her publicly for her time in helping prepare the presentation this evening and for her help with assisting with preparing a budget. The second are announcements. We do have an art and craft fair, which is sponsored by the Daytime Education at Recreation program, or the DEAR program. That's Saturday, November 5th of November from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And this is an opportunity to shop for handmade crafts, jewelry, clothing, fine art, and more. This is the 3rd annual event for this program. And vendors are still wanted for that. If you have any questions about participating, you can go to our website at penfieldrec.org. And finally, I do want to point out that we did publish a new supervisor's note this week, and this is really an educational piece about how projects and applications work through the town and what steps we take to communicate to residents about these applications and how the process works forward. So I really encourage you to go to the website. You can read that note and hopefully have some questions answered about how things work the way they work and why. And that concludes our announcements for the evening. Okay. We now have 3 public hearings this evening. That's a little bit of a heavy load for us. Usually we try to keep it to 1 or 2. Before we go into the public hearings, a couple of questions came up the last time we had public hearings about how we inform citizens, and that was part of the supervisor's note, but I did want to just review that in the public session this evening. First of all, by law, when we have a project or an application before the town, and we have to provide legal notice in the paper of record, which is Webster Herald, and we have to publish a notice at the Penfield Town Hall. We actually go beyond New York State requirements, and the town always has the application posted to the website. It's under the Projects Under Review tab. We have a property under review sign posted at the location of the proposed projects. If you see them, they look like real estate signs almost, and then they have a number to call if you have further questions. We have postcards sent to properties within proximity of the proposed projects. Now, I went back and looked, and typically these are 750 feet from the center point of the project. So that's how that list is determined. And then we always have a public hearing where the public is invited to learn more about the proposed project and share feedback. We collect and accept public comments on applications that come before the planning board, zoning board, town board, other boards. Once received, the comments are forwarded to the reviewing board, and all comments are placed in the project file and become part of the public record. Okay, so now we will move on to our public hearings. Public hearing number 1.
To consider amending the zoning map to rezone 1345 Shoecraft Road from rural residential 1 to residential 120. The legal notice was published in the Webster Herald on September 7th, 2022, posted on the town's website and town clerk bulletin board. 65 postcards were mailed. And if I could just mention, I also have received some calls from people asking me why they were sent information regarding a public hearing that is nowhere near where they live. And the reason is, for the interest of saving taxpayer we're combining, and this was a great idea of Carrie Ivers, combining these notices, public hearing notices, on the same postcard mailing. So you may get your postcard that has the public hearing you're interested in. However, you may also get the other public hearing as well. And it's actually a great thing, because then, if you're interested, you can come and hear both.
And assuming this is clear with the town attorney, that we can do this?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, before I have Ms. Ivers tee this up for us, if you do have a comment on this public hearing, you can be here in person to speak. You can call us at 340-8771, or you can reach us online at penfield.org. Now, Ms. Ivers, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. This is an application that actually initiated through my office before I joined the office. So the initial conversations actually started with my predecessor, Jim Costello. You'll recall that this was discussed early on in the beginning of the year in about January. But because for a variety of reasons, the applicant's schedules and who was in town, and then some various other circumstances, we're now just bringing it back to the board for public hearing. The proposal, there's two separate properties owned separately. The first one is 1345 Shoecraft, looking to rezone the parcel so that it is more consistent with the residential zoning that surrounds this area to be R120. The application or the idea was reviewed by the Comprehensive Plan Committee, and the Comprehensive Plan Committee supported the change in zoning, which is why it moved forward to this board for consideration.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions by town board members first? Okay, anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to this public hearing?
I have Pauline Novick.
Excellent. Yes, please, just have a seat, and before you start, just want to state your name and address for the record.
My name is Pauline Novick. I live at 933 State Road. So mine is the second application, but...
Okay, well, actually, there's a separate public hearing
Yes,
for
I
that.
know
She
that,
has something to talk about for number one.
Oh, perfect. Okay, thank you very much. Sorry, just wanted to be clear.
The other application abuts my property as well. So that's why.
Excellent, thank you.
We did have a meeting with the developer, and we have an idea of what he wants, which I guess I have to say we're not entirely thrilled with. The zoning is not an issue, the R120, because that's what everybody else has except me. And I think there's a farmhouse and, of course, the firehouse on the triangle that bounds this application. So the zoning part of it is not a problem.
Okay.
And the development issues come later, I guess.
Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Do you have any questions of me?
No, I don't think so, but you should watch town board meetings or planning board meetings to see as the project
Develops.
develops, correct?
Yes. I would have to watch it on the TV, I guess, because I no longer have email and internet access.
Okay, great. And you can always call Ms. Ivers for information, too.
We've talked.
Excellent. Thank you very much for coming.
Okay, I have Elaine Meadows.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Elaine Meadows. I live at 1348 Shoecraft Road. So this is the first public notice I received about the property. I didn't know about the previous planning session. And it is true, I know that everyone on the west side of the street is zoned R120, but I am on the east side of the street, and I'm still rural agriculture. So while I can understand why the rezoning is able to move forward, it makes sense to me. I think I speak for a lot of my neighbors about being dismayed because we believe that the developer wants to turn 1345 into a main driveway for his townhouse development. And so you can understand how anyone would be living on a block of 15 homes would be dismayed at having 24 townhomes using this particular lot as their main driveway entrance. So since we are a block of 15 houses and you're thinking 24 townhomes, maybe that's 40 cars coming in and out every day. And so I was glad we talked about safety in the announcements because it's a very dark block. And so I'm wondering if the rezoning comes with adding streetlights, if it comes with adding a sidewalk that possibly connects to the northern sidewalk on Shoecraft and the corner at Plank Road, because the road itself makes kind of a hump, and when you walk in the evening, it's extremely dark. We walk not late at night, but after the sun goes down, and we have our little flashlights, but it's a very dark area. And so my concern is about the safety of this and more than doubling our residential traffic, and if that's part of the plan or if I'm getting ahead of myself.
Well, to answer your question, right now this hearing is really just to rezone.
Okay.
There is no application for any development before the board as of yet. Okay? Mm-hmm. So your concerns, I think what you're saying is that you tend to agree about the zoning change.
Right.
But similar to the previous speaker, not thrilled about what you think might be being proposed there.
Right. I have looked at the zoning map, and I understand that everyone next door, all up and down that side of the street is already zoned R120, and it's the only lot, the only parcel.
Right.
On that green stripe is the only one that is not. So.
Okay. So I would say the same thing as, for the zoning, I'm hearing what you're saying, that you agree with it, but your concerns are definitely most related to development, and there's no application before the board just yet at all.
Okay.
Okay, so when that happens, you will get another postcard for another public hearing, and then you're very much encouraged to bring up those issues. Most developments now that are going into Penfield are required to have sidewalks and things like that.
Right. And we also have observed the pattern where they put the sidewalk just across their lot of development and then it dead ends in the weeds, literally. So there is that.
Good to know. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's all I have.
Okay, I don't see anyone online, nor do I see any phone calls. Last call for anyone in the audience. Okay, I will declare this public hearing closed, and we will bring this to a future work session. Thank you very much. Moving on to public hearing number 2.
To consider amending the zoning map to rezone 933 State Road from rural residential 1 to residential 120. The legal notice was published in the Webster Herald on September 7th, 2022, posted on the town's website and town clerk bulletin board. Of course, 65 postcards were mailed, but specific to this particular application, 27 were mailed for that.
Okay, thank you very much. And before I open this up to public comment, are there any questions by the board, from the board? Okay. Again, if you'd like to call us, 340-8771, or online at penfield.org. Ms. Ivers.
I'd actually just repeat exactly what I just said for 1345. We're in the same vicinity. If you're looking at the screen, 1345 is the large sort of undeveloped area. 933 abuts it right along State Road, and you see the parcel right here. So same idea. This is currently zoned RR1, and the request was to zone to R120.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to this application?
Pauline Novick.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Novak.
I've been at that Pauline Novick, 933 State Road. I've been at that location since 1965. At the time that I purchased the house, it was zoned for the half-acre lots. Then, over time, it was determined that we probably would not be getting sewers, so it was zoned. The zoning was changed to 1-acre lots. Then, when eventually we did get sewers, it was the other 2 streets were changed back to the R120. And mine wasn't, because by then I had purchased the adjoining property with the idea that, number one, it gave us privacy, and we wouldn't have anybody immediately next to us. And secondly, it was as an investment. Later on, the other 2 streets got zoned back to the R120, the half-acre lots, but mine was not, because I was conforming to the 1-acre. So that took away my ability to use the property as an investment. And that's, now I'm in my 80s. I hope to stay in that location until the day I die. I tell people it will be when I'm 100. But in any case, I would like the opportunity to sell that property, not necessarily to the developer, but in any case, to not have to maintain it anymore. It took me 3 years for us to get it leveled. It's like a park there, if you've ever gone by. But I would like the opportunity to be able to sell it again, and that's why I brought the application.
Thank you so much for your comments. So to just encapsulate what you said, you are for this
for the rezoning. I have asked for it.
Okay.
I asked for it when the others went back to 1/2 acre, but I was refused at that time.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions? Yes,
Can I ask one
please.
question, Pauline? Just a question. Besides 933, is that your only property that you own on that, on
Well,
State Road?
the property that I own is an acre plus 30 feet.
Okay.
It's all one. It was
It's all in one parcel.
adjoined as one parcel at some point in time, because it was purchased in --
I just was wondering if you had anything else, but it's
No.
just that one parcel.
so it would be separating off the half acre to the east, to the
Understood.
west of me.
Understand. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? I hope you are at 933 for a very long time.
So do I.
Okay. Anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak to this application?
And you won't be deciding this tonight, I take it?
No. This will be tabled for a work session in the future.
Okay.
Yes.
And then I'll be notified.
Yes.
One way or another.
I'll be in touch with you to let you know how it's proceeding.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We were going to get a chance to meet tonight, but we didn't.
I'm so sorry. Yes, that was my fault completely. I apologize.
Well, I was visiting all my neighbors.
All right, well, glad you could visit your neighbors. I do not see anyone on the phone or online, so I will then declare this public hearing closed, and we will move right on to our third public hearing for the evening. Would the town clerk please read it out?
To consider a revised site plan and special use permit for K2 Brothers Brewing located at 1221 Empire Boulevard. The legal notice was published in the Webster Herald on September 7th, 2022, posted on the town's website and town clerk bulletin board. 8 postcards were mailed.
Okay, thank you very much. And again, if you would like to join us by phone, it's 340-8771, or you can reach us online at penfield.org. Ms. Ivers.
The application before you is for a revised special use permit and revised site plan associated with the operation of K2 Brothers Brewing. The proposed modifications to the building include interior renovation of the upper floor, modification to the upper story roof line, exterior siding replacement and change, and then the construction of a second-story deck with a patio below. This is, because of the nature of the project, it requires to revisit the past site plan approval. It's essentially an expansion of a previously granted approvals by this town board. And so they're here tonight to have the public hearing to review the proposed changes. So the town has reviewed, when I say the town, PRC has reviewed the proposed plans focusing on the site plan, has provided comments that are going to be addressed by the applicant. Nothing significant was identified in the memo, and the application has been referred to our landscaping consultant to provide feedback on the proposed landscaping, and I'll have more information for you at next week's work session, regarding that review. So that's where we stand. So public hearing tonight associated with the proposed modifications to an existing location and business.
Okay. I have to say that I keep looking at the map and seeing all that green.
Yep.
And it makes me think there's rain in the area. Like I look at it as a weather map.
Let me bring you to the correct location.
Thank you.
And I can turn the zoning off now that we don't need it. Thank you. And I should have been paying attention, and I wasn't.
Okay, now you explained the history. Is it possible to just encapsulate what the changes are?
Yes, so
If any.
Yes, so the existing building, currently the second floor is not occupied as part of the business. It serves as a residence for the owner or one of the owners, and certainly the applicant will correct me on that piece of information. The idea is to renovate the interior space on the second floor in order to make that an event space, to be able to host, gatherings. Right now, their current configuration inside the building doesn't really lend itself to that. The way the bar is central on the lower floor, there's seating spaces on either side, but no central larger area. In order to comfortably accommodate people upstairs, they are looking to modify the roof line to create more headspace and an open sort of feel. I think that the architectural changes to the exterior would be maybe barn chic is maybe the idea that they're going for, and I'm borrowing from my best HGTV shows right now with that description. But they are looking to modify the entire exterior. Currently, it's a block building that they renovated and retrofitted for the purposes of their current use. But this will be a pretty sizable and noticeable change to the exterior. It includes a wall of windows, if you will, that would be facing across to the bay, and then there's an exterior deck outside that's on the second floor, would be accessed from the second floor, and the enclosed patio space below it. The applicant is here with their design team, and at least themselves, and can speak to the application in more detail and to address questions that the board may have.
Okay, would the Kennedys like to come forward, if possible, to speak about this application? Thank you. And while we're doing that, I did want to read into the record an email that we received. It was received via email and USPS, dated September 15th, 2022, from Michael Blvd at 313 Orchard Park Boulevard. And it is to the Planning Department. I have a concern regarding the revised site plan and special use application submitted by K2 Brothers at 1221 Empire Boulevard, and gives the application number. The public hearing is set for this Wednesday, September 21st, 2022. In the past, this business did not adhere to the town regulations regarding outdoor music and live music, thus creating a noise issue to area residents. Police were called regarding the business disturbing the peace. The sound from music echoes and carries through to residential homes around and above the restaurant. This has been in the past a problem during the evening hours, to the point where residential homes have to close windows at nighttime to block out the sound. About a year ago, when this was a constant noise issue, the town of Penfield was contacted, and they indicated that this business was not licensed for outdoor music. K2 Brothers was then notified. My concern, and that of my neighbors, is that a revised site plan and special use, including expansion of outdoor patio space, will now allow K2 Brothers to have outdoor entertainment music that will once again create a noise problem for the residents. I hope this is not part of the plan, and wanted to be sure the business was not looking to add special use for outdoor entertainment and/or music. I appreciate your attention to this concern. Respectfully, Michael Blvd, 313 Orchard Park Boulevard, Rochester, New York. I did just want to mention that I did look up the hearing, any complaints for this property and could find none from 2022, 2021, 2020. There was one in 2019, but it actually, I think, might have related to a different property.
Correct. Code enforcement did investigate the complaint, and it was determined that the noise was maybe coming from a neighboring restaurant that also had outdoor music that actually is located is on the bay. And at the time, it's not a current business currently in the town. It's a former restaurant that was located on the bay. And it's, so just for clarification and for updating the record, it's important to note that the applicant likely wasn't the source of the noise complaint. Also important to note that the complaint was coming from a resident in a neighboring town as well. So that's the town of Arundequoit on the bay side.
Well, that actually makes sense if water travels across, or sound travels across water more easily, so
Yeah, and if anyone's ever been at any of the establishments on the river, like along the river in like Charlotte, you can hear the music from either side pretty easily. So, and it's hard to determine where it's coming from until you're at the location.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. And I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Kennedy and Mr. Antitomaso. Just give a brief summary of what you're looking to do.
The best way that I could describe that would be that with the change in the pandemic, that changed so many of the rules that we have to abide by, it has changed the amount of people that we can even fit inside of our building on the lower part of it. So by opening up the upper end, we can, as Carrie had said, we can open it up to be able to have some parties, have things inside, because right now the only larger area to gather would be in our beer garden outside. This would give an indoor option for people to be able to gather. So that is our main purpose. We would do seating also underneath the deck. That would be, stamped concrete and, try to do aesthetically pleasing, look down there so that it would be able to give the effect for everybody. And it's just really giving us more seating so that, because we lost so much that we had to do the renovations during the pandemic. So because of all the changes we made, we lost a lot of the seating area inside. So we're trying to gain that back to be able to facilitate any type of private party or event that people are looking to do in the community.
Okay. Are there any questions by town board members of the applicants?
In that picture, it looked like there was an extension down below, no? That one?
This right here?
Yeah, what's that?
It's a covered, so it's the deck is on the upper story, and it's essentially like a covered patio, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, I see the little people.
Yes, yeah.
They were in the bigger picture. Got it.
If I could mention, too, we did come before the board back in 2019 or 2018 to ask for permission for outdoor music, and we were given permission for that.
I'm sorry, you were or were not?
Yes. We were.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
And in that time frame, we did go around to all the neighborhoods at the same time and did our decibel testing to make sure that it wasn't disturbing. We didn't do anything across the lake at all, but we did do all of our surrounding above and around in our surrounding areas to make sure that our decibel levels are always under 100 on the location inside, so that as it's even in the parking lot, you can't hardly hear the music. So we make sure that all of our music is low, and we always abide by the 10 o'clock curfew.
We appreciate your diligence. Thank you for that. Any questions else, again, more? Oh, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to this application?
No one signed up.
No, we have someone in the back, if you would like to come forward.
You can come to this table right here.
Or you can sit right at either one of those microphones and just start with your name and address. Thank you.
You're welcome. Keith McPhail, 2 Old Westfall Drive. And actually, it's a very simple question. I almost wanted to shout it from the back. The addition, which looks great, by the way, about how many extra people do we think it's going to add to the occupancy on an average day?
If you would like to answer,
I've not been given that number yet. Our architect's working on it. My understand is that with the sprinkler system, the max capacity for the building goes from 99 to 300.
Ooh.
I don't know if that's fact. Our architect said that he would let us know.
And that's
of course,
something-
it's the town. I'm sorry, it's also the town that makes that decision.
I was going to say, once the building department receives construction drawings, they make a determination based on the New York State Uniform Code
Okay.
about occupancy for both indoor spaces and exterior enclosed patio space as well.
so that number that you mentioned is probably not accurate.
There's no way to predict that it's accurate. I think there's a calculation the fire marshal has to use that's based in New York State code. And so
Okay.
they'll, based on, and it's part of the applicant, when they present the floor plan, will show if it's going to be open, if it's going to have assigned seating, all of that comes into play into determining what the final occupancy can be.
I understand. Okay.
May I ask a Part B? Can I assume that the brewery's at maximum capacity now for parking,
I'm sorry.
including the strip along the road?
So the questions are to the town board. I'm just going to
Yes.
clarify, not to the applicant.
Sorry.
I was just trying to be polite.
No, understood. I appreciate that. And don't mind me for jumping in. I apologize.
No, that's okay.
Okay. But I just, the questions are to the board for the public hearing. Sorry.
Is anybody able to answer that from the board?
Carrie, can you make a comment about that?
So the posted occupancy of the building, whether or not that's being exceeded?
No, the parking I think he's talking about.
Forgive me.
No, that's all right. I said, I believe I said, I'm under the assumption that the parking is maxed out now, including the extra parking spots down the road. So this would be an additional, potentially 200 people,
Well,
which would require 200 more spaces, simple math.
I'd be reluctant to add math to it without having a floor plan in front of us, because then we might be I might be providing answers that are not based in fact. So what I will say, though, is that the town board has already approved the ancillary parking facility that's going to be located just south of this property that's going to support. So if memory serves me, and please don't quote me, and I'm sure somebody will call me on it if I'm not correct, but I believe that additional parking area would accommodate 174 spaces.
It was 174, 175.
Okay, so then add that to the proposed site plan that's being shown here. And I believe there may have been some additional leased spaces available on Dr. Howard's future residential development. I'm not sure if that's still in play or not now with the ancillary parking. But that's certainly something that we'll be taking a look at to make sure that it meets the code requirements, all said and done. Yeah.
Good, thank you.
You're very welcome.
May I exit?
You may. Are there any other questions? I don't see anyone on the phone or online. Ms. Councilperson Drawe?
I just have one question, Mrs. Kennedy. Right now, so your capacity at 99, that's what they have right now for capacity, up to 99 people at
Yes,
one time?
because the building is not sprinklered.
Right.
Now, there might be outdoor space, like in the outdoor area, that they're allowed to have gathering because it's outdoors. There's a separate standard for that from a building code requirement.
Have you ever reached a 99 where you've had to turn people away? Just out of curiosity, as you're present.
Not usually. The only time I think it may have gotten real close to that would have been if all of a sudden it rained outside and everybody from outside walked in to close their tab out and leave.
Gotcha.
Other than that, we don't, right now, our seating inside, we only have about 60 chairs.
Okay.
So there's really not, because of the way we had to change it, we don't really, unless there's some people standing around, we don't have the seating capacity up to the 99 at the current time.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks.
And this upper portion is just for a private event space?
That's a great question for the applicant. I'm not sure how they're planning to use that outside space.
It would be used not only for private events, but if there are no private events, we would let our customers go upstairs.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
Just one question. Does this addition change anything from what you're doing today, as far as outside space?
I'm sorry, I don't,
So you have some outside patio space, you have some covered areas and that. Does this addition change that? Or would that remain the same in this?
all of that would stay as it is.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and your hours of operation are looking to stay the same as well? Okay. All right, is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak? Any other questions from the town board members? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone online or on the phone, so I will declare this public hearing closed. We'll actually be bringing this back for discussion by the town board at a work session. So that's the follow-up, and Ms. Ivers is very happy to keep you in the loop, how that goes.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes our public hearings for this evening. I will declare that meeting closed, and we'll move on to our first public participation portion of the evening. Again, in person, by phone at 340-8771, or online at penfield.org. Thank you, Ms. Ivers. Feel free to call in. Okay, seeing none, I will declare this public participation session closed. Please be advised that there'll be one later this evening as well. And are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? No, ma'am. Okay, we'll move on to our approval of minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of August 17th?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilperson Kohl and a second by Councilperson Lee. Are there any questions or comments about the minutes? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Cinti?
Aye.
Drawe?
Aye.
Kohl?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Ockenden?
Aye.
5 ayes.
I'd like to ask anyone present if there are any petitions, the town clerk or the town board members, if they have received any petitions. Okay. And then we'll move on to our resolutions by function, beginning with our law and finance.
Approving subdivision and site plan for ancillary parking located at 41 Woodhaven Drive, ancillary parking for K2 Brothers Brewing.
So moved.
Second.
So whereas the town of Penfield received an application for subdivision and site plan approval required for the construction of an ancillary parking area on a portion of 41 Woodhaven Drive, zoned residential 120 and granted incentive zoning. The parking area is being developed to support the K2's Brothers Brewing operation located at 1221 Empire Boulevard. And whereas this subject application is determined to be an unlisted action pursuant to the SEEKR, which is the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and the Penfield Town Board designated itself as the lead agency with the meaning of the state of SEEKR. And whereas the town board conducted a public hearing here at the town hall on August 17th at 7 p.m. to consider the proposed subdivision and site plan for this parking area and heard all persons interested on this proposed project. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town board has reviewed and considered all parts 1, 2, and 3 of this short environmental form associated with this project and has determined that as a negative declaration is appropriate and no further environmental analysis is required. And there are about 10 conditions in this resolution for the subdivision and the site plan, and it's approved with these following conditions. In granting approval, we are going to, these 3, the proposed use of an ancillary parking lot, business development and expansion by supporting an existing successful business operation and allowing for future expansion, which is the stated goal in the town's comprehensive plan. And also on that, this was very important that we felt, and we talked about this as a board, per the resolution 22T-176, this newly formed parcel upon which the parking lot will be developed could not be developed or sold separately in perpetuity unless and until the town board conducts a future review and grants its approval. And finally, the proposed development of a parking lot is less intensive than other potential development permitted under the original zoning district regulations. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a motion by Councilperson Kohl and a second by Councilperson Lee. Are there any comments or questions?
Actually, I had Drawe for moved and seconded by Kohl.
Yes, you do. I was looking at the wrong line item. I apologize. Thank you. That was Councilperson
Drawe.
Drawe. Yes. With a second by Councilperson Kohl. My apologies. All right.
Roll call, Cinti.
Aye.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Granting approval to rezone 1506 Empire Boulevard from residential 112 to limited business.
So moved.
Second.
So whereas an application was received by the Penfield Town Board pursuant to Chapter 250, 15.1 of the Code to amend the zoning map to rezone 1506 Empire Boulevard from residential 112 to limited business. The Penfield Town Board was best suited to act as lead agency within the meaning of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, which is seeker, and thus does hereby designate itself as lead agency pursuant to seeker and determined to be an unlisted action. Whereas the town of Penfield held a public hearing here at the Penfield Town Hall on August 17th to consider the said application and to hear all persons interested in this matter. And whereas the town board, acting as lead agency pursuant to the requirements of seeker, reviewed parts 1, 2, and 3 of the environmental assessment form, so now therefore be it resolved that this request for zoning 1506 Empire Boulevard from residential 112 to limited business be granted based on the following factors. And there was three factors on that. The planning board provided the town board with a positive referral. The proposed zoning was reviewed by the comprehensive plan committee, which supported this proposed rezoning to limited business, and future development or redevelopment on any of these parcels would need to conform to the development future standards set forth in the limited business district. So therefore, be it resolved that the town clerk be authorized and directed to give the necessary notice of such change in the zoning to the departments, agencies, and offices having jurisdiction in this matter, and to publish the same as prescribed by law, and cause the zoning amendments to be entered into the minutes of these proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a motion by Councilperson Drawe and a second by Councilperson Lee. See, I wrote it down at the right line. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
Cinti.
Aye.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Setting a public hearing on the 2023 preliminary and special districts budget.
So moved.
Second.
So be it resolved that a public hearing on the proposed Town of Penfield 2023 preliminary budget and the 2023 special districts budget be held on Wednesday, October 19th at 6:30 p.m. at the Penfield Town Hall, and that all persons wishing to be heard be given an opportunity at this time. Now therefore be it resolved that the town clerk cause a notice of the public hearing to be published in the official newspaper at least 10 days prior to the hearing, and be it further resolved that this legal notice shall also list a summary of the 2023 budget as required by law and contain a statement that a copy of the preliminary budget will be available at the office of the town clerk at 3100 Atlantic Avenue, where any interested person may inspect it during office hours on or after September 22nd, 2022. A copy of the 2023 preliminary budget will also be available at the Penfield Public Library at 1985 Baird Road, as well as online at penfield.org. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilperson Drawe with a second by Councilperson Ockenden. If there are no questions or comments, we'll do a roll call vote.
Cinti.
Aye.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Authorize the town supervisor to enter into an agreement for auditing services.
So moved.
Second.
So whereas the town of Penfield engages the professional auditing services and development of the town's annual audits from Bonadeo and Company, LLP, and whereas the town supervisor has received and reviewed an updated engagement letter from Bonadeo and Company to continue providing such services for the fiscal years 2022 and 2023. Now be it resolved that the town supervisor is hereby authorized to accept and execute the said engagement letter. I know they've been part of our process for many years, so they do a great job for us. So thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilperson Drawe and a second by Councilperson Kohl. Are there any questions or comments? Okay.
Cinti.
Aye.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Setting a public hearing for the establishment of extension number 61 to the Penfield Consolidated Sanitary Sewer District, Arbors Mixed Use Development District.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Whereas a written petition has been received by the Penfield Town Board, duly dated and verified to contain the required signatures, and having been presented to and filed with the Town Board of the Town of Penfield for the establishment of extension number 61 to the Penfield Consolidated Sanitary Sewers, the Arbor Mixed Use Development District. And whereas this proposed improvements consist of sewer pipes, lines, hardware, and all the necessary apparatuses thereto for the purpose of constructing the said sewer lines as shown on the map and plan attached to and made part of the petition and filed in the Penfield Town Clerk's office. So whereas the entire cost of the improvements to be constructed in said sewer district, extension shall be borne by the developer of the said extension. And now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Penfield hold a public hearing at the Town Hall in the Town of Penfield on October 19th at 6:30 p.m. to consider the said petition and to hear all persons interested on the subject, therefore, and concerning the same, and for such other action on the part of the Town Board with relation to the said petition as may be required by law. So be it further resolved that the public hearing notice shall be published at least once in the official newspaper of the town, the first publication, therefore, not to be less than 10 or more than 20 days before the date of the public hearing. And a copy of the public hearing notice should be posted on the official signboard of the town as prescribed by law.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilperson Drawe with a second by Councilperson Lee. I just want to remind everyone that this was discussed at the work session last week, and we are setting a public hearing as per the outcome of that discussion. And if there are no questions or comments, we can go ahead with a roll call vote.
Cinti.
Aye.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Thank you. That concludes our resolutions for the evening. We are coming up on our second public participation portion. Again, 340-8771 or online at penfield.org. Is there any old business before the board? And any new business before the board? Okay, we are at our second public participation section. I just want to give it a minute. I will note, too, that there is no executive session this evening, and our next legislative meeting will be October 5th, 2022. And I am not seeing any call-ins or online submissions. So with that, I will declare the second public participation session closed. And this meeting will be adjourned at 7:42 p.m. We wish to extend our gratitude to the town clerk, to Greg, and folks at PCTV for their assistance this evening.